books. They're alright, aren't they? Not as good as the telly, but I guess they're fine. They're pretty clever too, as they're just little symbols on a bit of dead wood that conjure up the most vivid images of thoughts, experiences and fantasy. Or they're Katie Price's third autobiography or something. The best books, though, are those of the story variety. Captivating stories are intellectual opium, bringing you into the magic that the author has conjured. A wizard pensmith, who was also partial to putting the willies right up you, was horror writer James Herbert. Now, James, sadly, is no longer with us, but man alive did he have some messed up ideas. Fellow spookin' literary giant Stephen King said this of his Anglo counterpart upon his parting with this here mortal coil. Herbert was by no means literary, but his work had a raw urgency. His best novels had the effect of Mike Tyson in his championship days. No finesse, all crude power. Those books were bestsellers because many readers, including me, were too horrified to put them down. Stephen King there doing a good line in backhanded compliments. His most famous books, and a favourite of mine, were the Rats series, which scuttled its way across 3 sphincter-loosening books and a 1993 spine-shivering graphic novel. It is the first of these novels, and indeed Herbert's first published effort, the Rats game is based upon. The novel, published in 1974, tells the story of a young teacher going by the name of Harris, as he tries to survive a London besieged by hordes of extremely large, very aggressive and plague-ridden man-eating vermin. It is a stomach-churning, brutal but brilliantly visceral debut from Herbert. The game was published in 1985 by what must be one of the very earliest houses to ever release a game. They were called Hodder and Stoughton. Hodder and Stoughton's origins date back to 1868. In all that time, they've released just one game, this one. I tell you what, this game had better be good given its 120-year development time. Of course, I jest. James Herbert's The Rats is no Duke Nukem Forever. Hodder and Stoughton were a book publishing firm who had the briefest of dalliances with games publishing. Why, it was barely a teenage finger blast in a bus stop. The game was developed by 5-Way Software, who also coded games based on Rogue Trooper and the previously covered Yes Prime Minister and Through the Trapdoor. The game was released on the Commodore 64 and ZX Spectrum in 1985, with a version very clearly being planned for the Amstrad CPC going by the in-depth instructions for the Amstrad. But alas, it wasn't meant to be, given Hodder and Stoughton's cold feet about the whole software thing. Thanks for the small chips and the fingering in the bus stop. It's not you, it's me. Please delete me on all your socials, please, thanks. So how does an adaptation of a novel conceivably work as a computer game? The answer? Really bloody well. The game, for the most part, has you controlling Mr. Foskins, the Minister of Health, as he deals with the situation that is getting increasingly out of control. The main hub of the game has you viewing this map of London at the very start of the outbreak. Your primary role here is extermination, your secondary is containment. If you fail to keep the threat within the boundaries of London, then your goose is bloody well cooked, mate. The white squares indicate the sighting of a giant rat or a horde of rats up to man-chomping mischief. You can deploy 3 sets of men to deal with the issue at each location. Any combination of firemen, pest control or policemen. They each have their own set of limited equipment, from hoses, axes, shotguns and dogs, to chemical suits, riot shields and masks for protection. The rats spread quickly, and underpreparing or understaffing each location could cause the vicinity to be lost. But not saving enough resources to deal with the problem, should it rapidly worsen, well, that could be even more fatalistic. The issue is that using the base equipment you get at the start of the game, well, the war is already lost. So you'll have to be doing research to develop new ways of dealing with this catastrophic situation. You must balance your allocated funds between researching the origin of the rats, their behaviour, and also developing new offensive and defensive equipment to detect and neutralise the vermin threat. Learning about their nature and their origins of your whiskery foe is just as important in combating them as developing any new tech or poisons. At any moment, a massive surge can happen, so you must use your reports from each location and equipment developed to deal with the threat as rapidly as you can. You'll be given updates on any new discovery by the scientists investigating these issues, or any new reinforcements arriving to help battle the string-tailed little arseholes. This main part of the game is a tense affair that is belied by its simplistic presentation and its limited nature. In isolation, it could be a game about just about anything. It could be an agricultural management game or a proto-sim city. In short, not in the least bit scary. Now, while I'm terrified of doing adult things like managing a budget, it's more of a dull existential angst rather than the adrenal spike of terror. But don't worry, dog, because the Rats has you covered for that scariness factor too. And how does it? Well, we all know that as venerated as the Commodore 64 and Spectrum are, they were very limited technology because 1985 was an awful long time ago. To capture the level of horror of Herbert's work is not going to be as easy a feat on this tech as it would be on a modern day computer or console. We all remember Friday the 13th, don't we? Well, programmers 5 ways only went and turned water into wine. In your face, Jesus. Every now and again, a siren sounds and the game automatically takes you to the perspective of a London resident going about their business. You're given a text adventure style description of the scene and a brief overview of who the person is and what they're up to. You interact via a list of available options rather than typing in commands like an old text adventure. So there's no musing about go south or pick up a butt plug. So you'll just see the list which will say go to or pick up, and then on the next screen you'll see van or crypt, or you'll select open and then you'll have to select between a cupboard or a door, say. It's a simple to use interface and it absolutely serves the atmosphere and the tension in a way that using a standard text adventure method it simply wouldn't serve. If the game was reliant on you using text adventure commands, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work in the slightest. There's an urgency to the interactions. Companions get restless. The black wave of ratty terror can burst into where you are and you need to react swiftly. So, selecting items from the list adds to this because you have to act quickly. The way this has been thought out and presented is expertly done, especially on the Commodore 64. In the Commodore 64 version, you get a thumping heartbeat sound that starts when the rats are first seen and accelerates as the danger gets more and more perilous. Think back to how you would lean forward in your seat when that exact sound started in the old TV show Nightmare. When the rats finally attack, the little beasties rip right through the text, sometimes just one big one, sometimes in legion. Sometimes you'll be too late, sometimes there's still a chance when this happens. If your character dies, you get this picture of them screaming. Now, if your character survives and performs a task during the survival attempt, there's a chance they'll provide vital intel for the main game. However, it might not be game over if they don't, unless it's one of the key characters like Foskins or Harris, in which case it's game over. These sections are short and nerve-wracking and they are extremely well done. They're so nerve-wracking. As an overall package, it's pretty damn good. I'm not sure it's a game that once you've locked in and beaten the damn thing you'll want to return to. But the experience once you get the hang of it is great. For the limitations of the time, it's about as good as they could possibly get it. If you're only playing the one version, then, well, make it the Commodore 64 one, as that's got the heartbeat that adds so much more terror to the game. But you know what, both versions are highly entertaining. You won't go wrong with either of them. While I won't go into detail on it here, one of the book sequels, Domain, which features the same city dealing with not only a resurgence of the man-eating rodents but the fallout of a nuclear missile attack, well, that also had a game, but only in development. It was leaked online but unreleased. It was more of a graphic adventure title than its precursor. For more information on that title, have a look at the article on the excellent resource site Games That Weren't. I'll provide a link if my tiny rat brain remembers. I can tell you though, it's not anywhere near as good. To the Rats game and its press coverage at the time, and well, it gained pretty mixed reviews in the games magazines of the time. Zap64 praised it as being easy to use but difficult to solve even for those who have read the book. They gave it a 79% in their November 1985 issue. CMVG reviewed it in the same month and gave it a 6 out of 10. They thought that it required a little experimentation and practice to get the hang of playing the game and to understand what is going on. They said it was novel and entertaining but wouldn't recommend it to someone looking for a mainstream adventure. So, a bit of a tonal shift then for the next video in this series, as we're going to go from abject horror to lusty secret agents and the Austin Powers games on the Game Boy Color. Groovy, baby! Yeah, don't do that again. Like, subscribe, and K thanks. Bye.